nowadays you got to have that because people nowadays.
Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. I suppose moving on to the hurling action, you obviously had two games in of course in the All Ireland Senior Hurling Championship. One game obviously a league relegation playoff, but I suppose touching on the two championship games, I suppose mainly like it was Waterford 130, Galway 320. An unreal game of hurling, but I suppose from your own point of view as a Galway man yourself, and obviously haven't been involved with the panel before. I'd love to hear your perspective on it anyway, because definitely not a year many people were expecting for Galway this year.
Yeah, it's an awful strange year for Galway hurling. There was like if you go on the league performances there that were less than a month ago, let's say Galway were the form team. They were racking up big scores. They were like, there was younger lads coming in like Fintan Burke. There was younger lads coming in and they were really making an addition to the old. They just got caught on the hop against Dublin, and everyone's like, okay, we're not sure what's going on here. They'll surely bounce back here against Waterford, and they'll put in a solid performance. First water break, I think it was 9-7 to Waterford. It was just like, it was okay. Like there was a bit like, there was no real big hits. There was no big Dereck gave Callum Lyons a massive shoulder, but then he hand passed it actually outside, and Jamie Byrne put it over the bar. But like besides from that, it was Galway were very kind of again flat. Co-commentary there on Sky, he was like, he just couldn't put his finger on it. But like as I kind of watched the game, I actually watched it again to see kind of like what was happening, and like just from the Galway point of view, like they just weren't using the extra, especially in the second half. They didn't use the extra man really at all to their advantage. And Waterford were using, like Liam Cahill did his homework very well. He was like, they used their strengths against Galway, and Galway didn't really have any response. So like when Callum Lyons got the ball in the backs, or Jamie Byrne, Peter Hogan was very class, I actually thought, because he was just getting the ball and going. They were just running direct, and then once they passed someone else, they had an overlap, and it was just a quick hand pass to Jack Prendergast, or someone else that was kind of on the 65-yard line, and they were just popping points then. And once they got that momentum in the second quarter, I think it was 1-8 to 2 points or something like that. They just couldn't. It was very hard to come back from that. Like there were 10 or 12 points down at half time. In inter-county hurling, to be down that much against a Waterford team that are full of running, tails are up, it was always going to be hard. Credit to Galway for coming back, but it was definitely too little to face. So it was. It's Galway hurling this year. It's strange. Like the two championship games, 2 losses, but if you had to go on the league form, I don't think anyone could have predicted the two championship performances that were going to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time since 1991 that Galway have ended a championship season without a win, which I suppose probably puts it into perspective for most Galway fans anyway. Like what you were saying there, like it was kind of reminiscent in many ways to the 2018 All-Ireland final against Limerick, where you were so far behind and all of a sudden got going then in the final 5 to 10 minutes, and you were and even watching the game against Waterford, you were kind of wondering why they didn't maybe start that run 10-15 minutes earlier, because if you did and you were playing that way for the entirety of the second half, or at least the majority of the second half, I mean, you probably would have turned it around, because I think Waterford definitely maybe just a little nervous towards the end. I remember they missed 1 or 2 chances that they normally score, so I suppose you kind of were wondering why Galway just didn't click into gear a little bit earlier.
Yeah, the second quarter was probably I was taking a few notes. Like Galway got 3 points, and Waterford got 6, and we had the spare man in that, and from the 35th minute to like the 53rd. That's we nearly lost the game in that, in that kind of, because like you had the spare man. You need to get momentum now. This is the time where if you get your 12 points down, if you get it back to 6 or 7, let's say, and you win that second quarter by 6 points, then pressure is going to come on Waterford. They're going to like retreat and say, okay, we won't give away goals. But then if you keep that scoreboard ticking, then that's when it'll really get nitty gritty towards the end. But Galway just didn't. It was very. No one really got the game by the scruff of the neck and said, I'm going to take this on now. I'm going to get 2 points in play here. I'm going to head down or anything like that. It was very like the ball's going over the line. Waterford were very cute in what they were doing. They were going down with, let's say, whatever, a head injury, or if they need a drink of water or whatever. Like 4 or 5 minutes as well of kind of just. So that's when I thought, when I watched the match back again and I saw that second quarter, or let's say the quarter after half time, that's when I thought, they needed to push on. They didn't use the spare man. Like Pádraig Mannion was, I think it was Pádraig Mannion was sitting back, or Shane Cooney, and they weren't really, like, if you, let's say, take Waterford, if they had the spare man, they were running like Jack Prendergast, Peter Hogan, Jamie Byrne, Callum Lyons, Shane Bennett. Even though he's playing centre back, he got the first score of the game. Like, he was powering up, and he was winning every time they were running direct at Galway. They were getting frees. Austin Gleeson was back there as well. So they had a game plan. It worked really, really well for Waterford, and Galway just didn't know how to react to it. They Joe Canning in the full forward line for the whole of the first half. Not much ball was going into him. I don't know, did he get maybe 1 or 2 balls? It was just Waterford were just blitzing Galway's half forward line. Joe Cooney won a few frees and a few puckouts, and Conor Whelan won 1 or 2 as well. But they just, like, every time the ball went to ground, the Waterford midfield were exceptional, and that's what really worked well, and got them over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I think in the end, like, it was just Waterford's intensity, I suppose, in the first half that proved to be a big difference. I suppose you were touching on Joe Cannon there. Like, obviously he broke the Henry Shefflin's record for all-time scorer, I suppose, in the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship. I mean, it probably went under the radar in many ways, because I suppose it's, obviously, given the defeat and the manner of the defeat, it probably hasn't been spoken about enough. But I suppose, having trained alongside Joe Cannon and played alongside him before, I mean, it's quite an incredible achievement, I suppose, for himself to break that record.
Yeah, so, like, as I was saying, it's a bit of an anti-club, but then Dereck McGrath went on to some other point about Waterford in defence or in the midfield. So it's a fantastic achievement. He's an unbelievable player. He trains, like, he's an unbelievable trainer. He's a great leader in amongst the team, and he does his talking. A lot of his talking is done on the pitch and scores, and really getting behind lads and everything. So I think his shot is he's very when he hits the sweet spot, it's very hard it's going straight between the posts or into the net. He's a ferocious shot. I wouldn't like to be a goalie on the 20 trying to save one from him, because he's a bullet of a shot. So he's well deserved. It's great that a Galway man has it. How long will it last? I'm not sure. There's always someone coming around the corner there waiting. Patrick Horgan is up there somewhere as well, and there's other players that will come along. But it's great for Joe, and unfortunately it's a bit of an anticlimax, but it's a great achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Patrick Horgan isn't too far behind, and I suppose he's still young enough that you feel he'd probably catch up to it eventually. I suppose looking at Shane O'Neill, obviously the Galway manager, like just looking at his championship record, like 2 wins, 4 losses. I mean, I seen some. I think someone was saying on Twitter there he's been Limerick's biggest asset over the past 2 years. I suppose it hasn't gone too well. I suppose. I mean, and I know a lot of people are kind of saying maybe it's time for a bit of a change. But what do you think yourself?
Um, yeah, it's a difficult one. 2 years, yeah, it's a long time, but it's also a short time as well. Is it long enough to keep him on? It's very hard to know. Um, yeah, like just a few like yesterday now, like just in terms of like team selection and kind of his philosophy or what was his thinking behind it. You know, Sean Lennon came in now. Maybe he must have been going really well at training. He started the corner forward, but was kind of out in the middle of the field, and he kind of picked up an injury, so he had to go off then with 30 minutes to go. That was a very risky kind of a move, especially in a game where you've just lost to Dublin. You're putting in someone new that hasn't played any championship time, and then you're leaving lads like Johnny Cohen and David Burke who didn't even come on. With their experience, that Galway need to bounce back here. You've got to get these guys on the field, and then I just thought that was a bit of a strange one, and that David Burke didn't even get a run, and that Sean Lennon started. And now also I thought like Fintan Burke has been playing seriously well in the league. He's a real strong asset to a half back line there, or Anton. He didn't feature either. I just thought that was a bit of a strange one. But it's probably easy to say it now, but like it's just I'm struggling to see how they must have been, maybe the lads are going well in training and he couldn't possibly not pick them, but for people outside, just people, supporters, fans, we just kind of found it a bit strange. 2 wins in 6 games in 2 years isn't. It kind of brings. It's nearly like when Anthony Cunningham in 2013 there, when 2014 they lost qualifier and he only had 2 wins, or very few wins in his first 2 years ago as manager, but then he got Galway to an All-Ireland final in 2015. And I think it's kind of the same here. The players are kind of there, like even Limerick they're probably saying that we're the biggest asset, or Shane O'Neill is Limerick's biggest asset, because I thought we were kind of number two. We were behind Limerick in the kind of rankings, let's say, because there's some seriously good hurlers in that team. Like I thought actually Conor Whelan was very good at the weekend, even though they lost. He was always hungry for the ball whenever, and he got a few points to play. You got the two Manions. Unfortunately, they didn't play to the heights that they can, and I don't think Joe Canning got enough ball. He probably should have been brought around again to the middle of the field. So for Shane O'Neill, it's a tough one. I know there's a few people saying that they're kind of looking elsewhere, and again, kind of the same thing with Paul Joyce. Who would you bring in instead of Shane O'Neill? Is there someone there to kind of, I know, like Davy Fitz could be out of the job maybe. Would he be the right man? I'm not so sure. I don't think his type of hurling would suit Galway. But if there was someone else to come in, I think Shane O'Neill might depart. But it's not looking. It's not. If yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they said Shane O'Neill has resigned, or he's leaving, or something like that.
Yeah, because I suppose Davy Fitz was kind of flirting with the Galway job, I think, wasn't he, before Shane O'Neill took over. So I suppose that would be an interesting one. But again, I'm not too sure whether traditional Galway hurling people would want Davy Fitz in charge, I suppose. But
yeah, I think and a very good point there that you just said, traditional, and I think that is a huge point into the game that happened at the weekend. There, you've got traditional hurling now, like you've got Kyle Hayes, perfect example, gets the ball in the halfway, goes, and Jim Burns as well, massive strike there from the half back. Jump there, and Declan Hannon actually comes up the field sometimes too. Like half back line is nearly as good as your full forward line these days. They need to be scoring and adding to the scoreboard. You've got, I think Galway were just too traditional. You've got Dahi Burke there, that was 6, like great hurler, but like he was bursting up the wing, but he's not renowned for that. You know, Galway are a bit more traditional, like Aidan Hart, even though he came up last year and got a goal against Tip to actually get them to get them over the line against Tipperary last year, but they weren't using the traditional type of hurling. And I think of Shane Cooney might have been the other wing back then. Like they weren't flooding up the field and hitting shots from 65 yards out and pinning them over the bar. While if you look at Waterford, that's pure the kind of modern day hurling where you get the ball, it's a 10-15 yard hand pass or strike, hand pass, and you're shooting kind of nearly from midfield over the bar. Like Jamie Byrne hit a ball one thing off the ground into Ozzie Gleeson's hand after a sideline, and he just drilled it over the bar from the halfway line. So I think that's a very good point there that you made, that the Galway maybe are playing a bit too traditional in kind of just one pass and straight into the full forward line. But they do have the players, like if Conor Whelan is inside, if Brian Concannon is inside, and they're getting good quality ball, they're very hard to kind of stop. So if they can just mix up a bit of modern hurling with their traditional hurling, because I think all like you've got Waterford, Clare very modern, with 10-15 yard passes. Cork are very short game as well. So I'm not sure Galway getting left behind in the traditional, even though Kilkenny always play traditional and they're still in the semi-final. So they just need to get a bit more of the modern day hurling, I think, in the positions.
Yeah, I suppose it's probably about finding the mix as well, because we even seen with Kilkenny in the league at different stages, they were kind of playing a bit more kind of modern hurling at different stages, and then in the Wexford game they were kind of going back to a little bit of their old roots. Like, and I suppose like obviously you might have a fair few retirements in the Galway panel maybe over the next couple of weeks, but I suppose you do have the likes of your Brian Concannons and your Jason Flynn's and a few other lads there, like young lads in the team. So like it might be, I think what a lot of people are saying maybe is there might be a bit of transition for Galway hurling over the next couple of years, but at the same time, like we've seen with Limerick in 2018, even the Cork team now, sometimes bringing through those under 20 players can actually be a good thing, because you could catch teams out because teams mightn't be as prepared as what they would have been in the past. Yeah,
absolutely. Like I think Galway actually have kind of put in a few players over the last few years, like like Evan Ireland came in there. He came on, he got 2 good scores. Well, that's probably again maybe he should have brought in earlier. Maybe he played very well in the league, and why wasn't he starting maybe corner forward out in the middle of the field or something like that? It's a bit strange. Like Fintan Burke, another young lad that's after coming through, fantastic, strong. He's strong as a bull, and he's been playing there for Thomas's there as well in the club championship, even in the All Ireland series there. He was, unfortunately, he did his knee that time, but he was American. He was American TJ Reid, and or Colin Fennelly, one of the other. But like he has great experience under his belt. So I think there is, and like Darren Marcy is a new lad. He was corner back there, unfortunately got injured, but like Jack Fitz came on from Dereck Fahey. Unfortunately, Éanna Murphy had a COVID. He came in first championship start. He didn't put a foot wrong. So there's definitely young lads coming through. It's just about gelling them all together. Where, like the likes of Joe, where is his best position? Conor Whelan, who's been around for a long time, Porras, the 2 Manions, where are their best positions, and kind of fit the young lads around them and gel a good team, and then get your kind of good people off the bench then, to make a real impact. Like Jason Flynn, there's questions that why didn't he start, but would he have got 2-1 in 15 minutes if he started, or over that time? I think that was like a perfect sub. I actually think that's the way subs should come in and make a real impact. Like 2-1 is a massive impact. Maybe scoring 1 or 2 points is kind of what I'm thinking, but he got 2-1. Like if I came on as a sub and your expectation is to get 2-1, Jesus, I'm not sure would I be able to get it. But I thought he did what a perfect sub should do, kind of come in, change the game, and he was very influential. But going back to your question there about retirements and stuff, I think it depends on the manager. Like if they brought in someone new, uh, they could like say, okay, we're going to go in with, let's say they just bring in David Fitz, just as an example. Like he might say, right, I'm going to bring in all these young lads that are around the under 20s, and Joe and Davy Burke and Johnny Cohen and Niall Burke. Like, thanks for your time, but your time is up, kind of. And you might just play all the young lads instead. So I think it depends on the manager. Another manager could come in and say, right, I think there's still an All Ireland in Joe and David Burke and all these lads. We're going to stick with you and gel the young lads through some way, shape or form. So I think it does come down. A lot comes down to the manager and whether lads will retire or walk away or whatever else.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it'll definitely be one worth keeping an eye on, I suppose, over the next couple of weeks and months to see what changes there are and whatnot. I suppose from a Waterford point of view, I mean, obviously it was a huge win for them, considering that they, I suppose, had struggled a little bit in the Laois game the week previous. I mean, it was kind of back to the vintage Waterford really of last year, like kind of getting to that All Ireland final. They obviously played Tipperary next in the qualifiers. Like, where could you see Waterford go from here? Because I suppose when they play like they did in the first half, and even at stages in the second half, with 14 men, like they mightn't be the best team in the country, but they're certainly up there and in with a chance.
Yeah, they're using their game plan very well. If they could keep using the game plan and dictating the games, like they were in All Ireland last year, like so it's not strange to see them back in it, or to beat Tip the next day wouldn't be a strange thing at all. Like I just like the Jack Fagan there, like he's kind of their kind of puck out strategy, kind of like he's a big man, and the breaks kind of come off him, or else they kind of go short and work the modern day hurling 10-15 yard pass to Jamie Byrne in the middle of the field, or that kind of thing. And so they've kind of got Jack Fagan as an outball, and they have Desi Hutchinson then inside as another outball who is just fast, lively. If he's isolated one-on-one, he can head for goal and make things happen. And like Conor Gleeson now, unfortunately, probably got a red card. Probably won't feature in the game against Tip. Could be a bit of a loss, but they do have subs to come in, like that Dara Lyons is coming on with the red helmet. He's very influential. They got Neil Montgomery, Kevin Moreneck. He didn't come in the last day, but he's very he was class in the final against Galway in 2017. So they do have strength and depth in their panel. So I would think Waterford can go a long way. Like Tipperary, they probably would have rathered maybe Dublin. I think that would have been an easier draw for them. But Tipperary, they're a good side as well. They can score from anywhere. The same as kind of Waterford. Like you've got Bubbles, James Callan, Jason Ford. Out the field, then they've got Ronan Maher that can score from long range. Alan Flynn. Mikey Breen can be kind of drifting in from the half forward line to midfield. He can score as well. So it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be the game of the weekend. I think in terms of Cork and Dublin, I think Cork I don't think them two teams are up to the same heights as Tip and Waterford, just in terms of just quality and just overall kind of bench and team and everything. But I think if Waterford get over the Tip game, who knows? Who knows? Because they'll give either Limerick or Kilkenny a rattle again. So yeah, I think Waterford could go a long way in this championship. I don't think they're finished at all yet.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, when we seen they obviously beat Kilkenny last year in an All Ireland semi-final, so I'm sure they wouldn't have any fears or worries going into that game. They've had quite a decent record actually in the championship against Kilkenny over the past 2 or 3 years. So, and I suppose you had Clare and Cork. We were kind of touching on Cork. It was Cork 319, Clare 123. Again, kind of like similar to the Galway Waterford game in some ways, like a late push from Clare, and you had Patrick Collins making that save from Tony Kelly. I mean, like I think it lit up there for Clare fans. I mean, they must have been surely thinking the ball was going to end in the back of the net and it was going to be a fairy tale win, but not meant to be.
Yeah, that's exactly what that fairy tale win or that's what you dream of when you're a young lad. 2 points down, last puck of the game, and you're running on, you're soloing in, and you're striking it. And But yeah, I think you have to give credit to the goalie. The goalie could easily just did something mad or something, but he stood his ground and he made a great save, because like Tony's shot was, he's a great striker of the ball as well. So yeah, the game was, as you said, like Cork were kind of up, were leading for a lot of it, and then Clare kind of came back towards the end, but probably again too little, too late. It's very interesting to see how they'll do. Like they kind of got the easier side of the draw now against Dublin, so you probably would be expecting Cork to kind of push on. Is it Limerick? I know Limerick kind of schooled them, I suppose. There earlier on this year. Kilkenny are always Kilkenny, big passion and everything. Would Cork give them the game? I'm not so sure. So it's hard to know. I actually thought Clare were going to win. I thought they had a lot left in the tank. They had a great win the week previous. So it's against Wexford. So it's hard to, we'll see now how Cork get on against Dublin. But yeah, it was good. I thought Clare were going to win, but fair play to Cork.
Yeah, I'd Clare down as well for a victory. I thought they were coming in with a bit more momentum, and I suppose had more championship games and championship wins really over the past year or two. So I would have fancied Clare as well. But I suppose for Cork, like we were saying earlier, with the fact that, you have your likes of your Galways and your Kilkennys who maybe still have that old school style of hurling. We can see Cork are, very fixed on going for goals and getting their wing backs forward and almost playing like Gaelic footballers in many ways. And like with the wealth of talent that they have coming through from under 20 level, like with Shane Barrett and Alan Connolly coming off the bench, like it is kind of similar in some ways to Limerick in 2018. Whether they go to that same heights, maybe not, but certainly at the moment, like they are on an upward trajectory, and you would feel at some point over the next 5 years that they probably will crack the code and get to an All-Ireland final, or at least come close anyways.
Yeah, you would, and it probably wouldn't be no harm either for kind of hurling in general in Cork, because they're there. Like it's kind of Kilkenny and Cork were kind of the traditionalists of the hurling world there, and they haven't been really around in a long time there. Like they lost to Clare in 2013 and haven't nothing really close since, except for maybe the semi-final against Limerick there in 2018. But yeah, they're rejuvenated, as you said. There's a good few young lads like Connolly there and Barrett, Jacko. I think it's Jack O'Connor there, corner forward. He got a goal. He's new enough on the team. He's young too as well. So they've got a lot of pace. Like Darragh Fitzgibbon there. He's youngish. Let's say he's 23 or 4. I think. He's really lots of pace there. Luke Meade. Donald Cusack was highlighting him there on the Sunday game. Like he was very influential in kind of being a playmaker, hitting the ball into the full forward line, or making a short hand pass that are just influencing the game around the middle of the field. So they're definitely on the upward trajectory. You're definitely right. Probably just need to maybe a bit of luck, a bit of momentum to get them to an All-Ireland final or something like that, but they definitely have the right kind of structures in place. And yeah, I wouldn't. I think they could go far in a few years' time. This year, I think I'd be very surprised now if they lost to Dublin. I think they've got that win over Clare now. I just think they'd have enough for Dublin. And then they're in an All-Ireland semi-final, and who knows after that. But yeah, they're definitely going in the right direction, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I suppose Dublin are kind of ravaged with a few injuries at the moment and a bit of a COVID situation there. So you probably would have to fancy Cork. I don't think Dublin will be able to emulate the Galway win, unfortunately. But I just have to kind of just slide that in there.
Yeah, you might as well know. We can't say anything until next year, so you might as well get them all the way.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be on the end of a beating next year, and probably like 15 points or something like that. But I suppose Laois and Westmeath to finish up. Like Laois obviously won that game 127 to 27 points. Obviously staying in Division 1. I suppose Davy Glennon, obviously former Galway hurler in the Westmeath side, and obviously they won the John McDonagh Cup last week. But I suppose for Laois, like in the end, they stay in Division 1 hurling and in the Leinster Championship, like avoiding relegation in both.
Yeah, it's massive for it was massive for whatever team won, but Laois just got there at the end. I actually watched this game fairly like sat down in good detail. Like the first half, like Westmeath were all over them. Like the first quarter, like Laois, I thought were there's no way back here. Like Westmeath were doing. Niall O'Brien was flying at Niall Mitchell. They were really David Glennon, as you said. Like he's always buzzing. The one thing that he was doing in Galway there for the last 2 years, club with Mullia or in the Galway setup there, he was always buzzing. And that's why they brought him on so many times as a sub, maybe for Galway. That like he always gives you that kind of burst of energy, and he'll lift a team. And he's always a good man to get a free as well, because he's good for kind of, I wouldn't say diving, no, but like just good for kind of plow off in the free or whatever. But yeah, like he was very influential in the first half, and then it kind of went they were on top, and then there was a kind of a scuffle then just towards the end of the first half, and I think it was Craig that got a red card then, and that really changed the game in terms of, like, I think the Laois were 10 points down at this stage. Like, this is like, like there's no need to go over, and I think he stamped on his leg, like kind of when the ball was kind of, it was just like right in front of the linesman, so he couldn't miss it, and he just stamped down top of his knee or something like that. You're 10 points up, like there's no need to do it, but it happened anyway. But then Laois kind of came out in the second half. They've got Paddy Purcell, they've Willie Dunphy, like both teams have, and Roddy King in the full forward line. Like if he didn't get that goal, I think it was 18 points to 9, and he got a flick of the hurl into the net, and it was 18 points to 1-9 then at half time. Like if they just kind of maybe get more game management, Westmeath definitely would have got over the line, and maybe they were out the week before. Celebrations might have caught up on them a small bit, but I know they're saying on the Sunday game that they should bring up there's no benefit here for both sides kind of going down and up, and kind of a yo-yo every year, that they want to extend the teams in the league. I wouldn't see why they can't. The football obviously do it well. They've got 8 teams in their league, so like, and they run off the game. So like, why can't the hurling have maybe 8 and 8? Division 1 and Division A and Division B. So I think it wouldn't be. I don't think it's a massive thing to do. Obviously, we'll see what the GAA kind of. I think a lot of people are pointing fingers at why they can't do it. I think it'd be good for Kerry and Kildare, Westmeath and Laois again and Carlow, that they don't have to kind of go up and down, surviving relegation one year and then promoted another year and back down again. You need a few years to kind of develop into the Division 1 kind of setup. You won't be used to it for 1 year and then go straight back down again. So yeah, it's sorry, completely going off the point there, but yeah, it was very good. It was a very good game, but Laois just got over the line. Yeah, and well deserved to Cheddar. I actually really like him as a hurling man and as a manager. So fair play to Laois.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely was a huge win for Laois, all right. Like, and like what you were even saying there about the kind of structure of the leagues moving forward. Maybe even I was even thinking like they should even probably have maybe 8 teams in the Leinster Championship at the start of the year, because you would feel like it is kind of more or less the same teams in relegation battles next year. Like you've got Laois and Westmeath both in the Leinster Championship next year, and you'd probably feel, even like saying this today, 1 year previous, that it'll probably be, at least one of them in a relegation playoff again. So like, yeah, I mean, although all the talk is about restructuring the football championship, maybe just some slight tweaking to what is already a brilliant hurling format, I suppose.
Yeah, like you look at the games there last weekend, Galway, Waterford, even though there was only 4 points in it, but it was a good spectacle towards the end. Like, if Galway put up a bit of a more of an effort, it would have been, you know, 1 or 2 points. The Clare and Cork, you know, it was tit for tat there as well. So the hurling championship, you know, I think a lot of, I forget, I think it was Shane McGrath, I think had it up, tweeted that like he's been in Thurles the last 3 weekends, and he just said like it's 3 fantastic matches that have taken place there, you know, and like you had Clare and Wexford last weekend, you know, very good game. So there's nothing, there's no real, I wouldn't change the championship in hurling. I think everyone's kind of happy with it. I know you're kind of saying maybe extend Leinster out to 8. If they don't get time in the league, then they're just going to get blitzed. But if they're playing Division 2 hurling and then they're expected to kind of play a Galway or John Kilkenny straight off the bat, where they've been playing maybe a Wicklow or a Kildare, or no offense, like, you know, to them kind of ranked teams, but like you're going to come up against way higher opposition, and I don't think putting them straight into the Leinster Championship would help. I actually think definitely put them into the league, because when I was playing, let's say, in our time, and we play, this is when we get a run, like, you know, whenever we have to play Kerry, or maybe just not as a top team, if you have to go down maybe to Waterford, just, you know, for the long journeys or whatever, they might, you know, rest Joe Canning this weekend, rest David Burke, rest Niall Burke, you know, all these lads, and they give the fringe players also a good rattle. They give us, you know, a chance, and that's when you have to like take your chance and get your jersey. And that's just the way it was, you know, if we had to play Carlow or whatever. So it'd be a good opportunity for even the likes of Galway, Kilkenny, they can see more players if it was gone out to 8, that they, you know, if there's a game on in Carlow, or let's just say there's a game on in Kildare league game, and you know, we might, you know, rest a good few, maybe 6 or 7 lads, and give the fringe players that, you know, train as hard as the senior team but don't get as many game times. So I think it will be, I think it's a win-win for the younger team, or the not so good, let's say, counties, because they get to play teams, the higher teams, and then the higher teams can kind of maybe rest a few lads and see other lads, fringe players, how they play. So I think it's and like the football run off the league, it's the exact same. Like you just play the same weekends, the same structure as the Alliance football leagues. So with the 8 teams, so I don't see how I think it's a great idea if it could be done.
Yeah, 100%. That would definitely, I think, do a world of good for a lot of up and coming counties. And I suppose Offaly are another county very much like they beat Wicklow 6-30 to 11 points. Didn't see any of the game, obviously, but I suppose like you would fancy Offaly to come through the Christie Ring Cup, like, with no disrespect. I think they're playing Derry in the final. They won at the weekend as well. Like, so it's good to see Offaly hurling back on the rise again after a few disappointing years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Michael Duignan is doing a fantastic job there. And you look at the under-20 there against Dublin during the weekend football, even, like, you know, they're really like it's good for neutrals and the GA to see results like that. You know, that there's just other counties. The GA is about getting as many counties involved, or giving them a chance to win, because it's an All Ireland competition. It's not a 4 or 5 kind of competition. It's an All Ireland, so every kind of county should have a fair crack at, let's say, winning All Ireland. So I think, yeah, it's great to see Offaly kind of coming back. I think they'll, you know, no offense to Derry, I think, you know, Offaly are just will be too strong for them. And like, you know, involved with What's The Scor, let's say, and I'd be, you know, talking to Offaly kind of club teams there, and a few of the, you know, the PROs, or the people involved in the clubs, kind of said that when after you're playing Division 2, that they mightn't actually, some of their players would rather train properly with the club than actually playing you know, the Division 2 Christie Ring. Let's say they want to play the All Ireland, they won't give the time and commitment. So like that's, you know, when you hear that kind of thing, that's a worry. So that's again another reason why, if they were playing Galway in Division 1 and it was extended to 8, you know, they won't, you know, they want to play at the highest level. You know, they'd love a crack at John Mark and Carl May in midfield, or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's great to see that they're coming, and I think they'll probably win the Christie Ring.
100%, yeah. Like, no, I think because that's what we want to see is more teams. Like, and I think even seeing Antrim this year, kind of, being very competitive. I know they ended up going down from the Leinster Championship, but I think the more teams, the better. Like, we can definitely have a much more competitive All Ireland Senior Hurling Championship moving forward. I suppose before we wrap up, like obviously with What's the Score? I mean, I imagine you're busy enough at the moment with all the club activity and all the club games that I suppose are coming back, and we've club senior football championships now that are and hurling championships that will be back, of course, in a couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, it's busy, and it's great to be busy. So there was a lot of time there with COVID that there wasn't anything on. So yeah, we're just preparing here now as best we can for the club championships. I think Clare now is starting in a few weeks, and I think Sligo, they kind of said that they're gonna. A few of the clubs there said they're starting, I think, in about 2 weeks' time. So yeah, there's loads of clubs coming back now, and it's great to see. So yeah, the more clubs we can get, the better. So yeah, it's great.
Perfect. Well, look, listen, I'll link it down below as always for anyone to check it out. And cheers, Paul, anyway, for coming on and giving me your time.
Cheers, Aaron. Thanks a million. Cheers.